Good morning, everyone. You know, it's interesting. I normally say good morning, and it's usually good morning, but with this group, it's claps, and it's energy. That's great. So welcome to NSB's Engage. The theme or the topic today, of course, is the fire within. My name is Tim Magwood from the Mark of a Leader, and I've got the head of an entrepreneur, I've got the heart of a coach and a storyteller, and I've got the soul of a singer and songwriter. And two of my passions that I'm going to share with you today are music and story. So I thought we would get things going for a few minutes. Since the theme is the fire within, my job is to spark a little energy in this group, so we're going to do a little bit of music. I've been doing some singing and songwriting for the last 7 to 10 years, and you know, music, melody, harmony, and of course the glue of music is rhythm. It's rhythm. Rhythm is the underlying current of the universe. There's a rhythm in this room. There's a rhythm inside of us. There's a rhythm in any conversation. There's a rhythm in meetings. To what extent do you pay attention to rhythm? I'm going to get us going with a little bit of rhythm this morning. I'm going to play a few music clips. We're going to use our hands. We're going to use our feet to get a little bit of an energy and spark the fire within. How's that sound? Does that sound good? Good way to start? All right. So here we go. Little clip. I just want you to use your hands in terms of clap. Turn up the music a little bit there. Emphasis on the 2. Ready? Follow my lead. Clap. There we go. Very good. It's good. Remember Steve Martin and the Jerk? Remember that? Very good. And cut. Nice. Okay, next one, little rock and roll. Little Johnny Be Good. We're going to use our hands and we're going to use our feet. Here we go. Little Johnny Be Good. We use our hands and feet to get a little bit of energy. A little warmth in the room here. Here we go. Hands. Very nice. And now feet. Just feet. Just feet. Just feet. No hands. There we go. Just feet. Just feet. That's it. Tough. And hands. Yeah. Ready? And now feet. That's good rhythm. And cut. Very good. How many of you know Bo Diddley? How many of you know Bo Diddley? What is Bo Diddley famous for? Diddling. Diddling. That's a little offside, but we'll take it. He's famous for the Bo Diddley. The Bo Diddley is a little unique rhythm. It's a 1, 2, 3, a 1, 2. And I want us to feel this rhythm, the Bo Diddley. Here we go. It sounds something like this. It's a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, hey, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, hey, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That's it. Hey, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Very good. And cut. That diamond ring don't shine. One thing I love about music and rhythm is a small adjustment can make a big difference, can it? Small adjustment can make a big difference. And that's just when you hear speakers talk, a little small idea, a small shift can make a huge difference. This next tune, Bob Marley, it takes us to a different place. So in this one, I just want you to close your eyes. Just let your imagination go. Just feel the rhythm inside of you, right? Little Bob Marley, Iriman, One Love. Yes, guy. And the last one here, who saw the FIFA World Cup this summer, the FIFA World Cup? A little Brazilian for this, a little Brazilian music I'm going to end with here to just to energize you. Everybody stand up for this last piece. Stand up, put your coffees down, don't spill it on everybody. I want you to feel this rhythm, use your hands, use your feet, use your hips. That's really important in rhythm, is to see a little hip music. All right, little tricky rhythm. Turn it up a little bit, a little more volume. Here we go, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, da, 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 da. Very good. Da, da, let's come on, let's go. That's it, check it out. Da, da, da. Very good. Yeah, woo. All right. And cut, very good. Welcome to the Fire Within. I'll come back later and share a couple stories. Have a great morning, all right. At the Mark of a Leader, we define leadership as helping others to be their best. Helping others to be their best. So if we can vision and mobilize and coach, that can really make a big difference. And we really believe that, in fact, all of us are leaders. I think there's a perception in the business community and the world out there that there's only a select few that are leaders, and we really believe that everyone's a leader. And we really believe in what we call 5-level leadership. And those 5 levels, and if we engage those as leaders, anything can happen. And this is a story that really activates that. So there's the spirit, which is the why. That's about vision, the spirit, and that means different things to different people. There's the imagination, the right brain, creativity, critical in business, in the world today, creativity. There's the intellect, left brain. There's the heart or the fire, and that's a big part of what binds us here today in terms of fire. And then there's hands. Spirit, imagination, creativity, intellect, heart, hands. And which out of those 5, what do you think are dominant in the world today or in business today, out of those 5? Intellect, hands, right? We see a lot of intellect, we see a lot of hands. Not enough spirit, imagination, and heart. This is a story that really demonstrates beautifully the spirit, the heart, and imagination in action. So this is an ad, and this story I want to share with you because it's 100 years old. It's 100 years old this October. So in 1914, there was this ad in a London newspaper. Men wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return, doubtful. How's that as a sales pitch so far? Especially for you women, men wanted. And this last line really grabbed the attention of thousands of people. Honor and recognition in case of success. Well, this expedition was to be the first expedition across the Antarctica, a continent larger than China, and it was to be led by this man, an Irish explorer named Ernest Shackleton. So they set off from London Harbor in this boat here called the Endurance, 28 men, 21 sled dogs, and they headed to the Southern Ocean to try to navigate the Antarctica for the first time. They stopped here en route to a whaling outpost on South Georgia Island, and this will factor in later in the story. This was supposed to be a 3 to 4 month excursion in the Antarctica, but unfortunately the winter came early that year, and the Endurance got stuck in the ice. And the men, try as they will, they tried to free her from the ice, but there was no use. They were stuck. They were struck with the grim realization that they were going to be stuck in the Antarctica winter for about 7 months. So imagine, you're stuck in the Antarctica. You know it's going to be about 7 months. Gale force winds down to -50, -60. Oh, and this is 100 years ago. This is 1914. So there's no Blackberries or iPhones or no ability to connect with the outside world. 300 miles away was the nearest island, Elephant Island, a deserted island, and 400 miles away from civilization. So far, are you glad that you've signed up for this journey? Probably not so much. Well, try as they might, and Shackleton knew that the real enemy here was actually not the weather. Even though the weather was horrific, the real enemy was the men's spirits. So he knew that he had to keep the men's spirits alive, so they close cut their hair so they wouldn't appear to be disheveled. They had some parlor games, they had some fun, they played chess and they played checkers. So he knew they had to keep the spirits alive. They kept the hands busy because Shackleton knew that idle hands are a devil's playground. So they just hung in there and knew that they were going to be stuck for 7 months in the Antarctica. And here's a shot here. They're stuck, and when the spring thaw came, it didn't bring freedom, but in fact, it brought the opposite, because as the spring thaw came, it melted the ice and melted the snow and shifted the ship on the side, and they saw as their Endurance snapped. And so they knew that their safe passage home wasn't going to get them home. So the men had to scurry on board, and they had to get the 3 lifeboats, they had to get the remaining food, and they had to bring it down onto the ice. And they watched as the Endurance snapped and went to the bottom of the Southern Ocean. So there they were on the ice. They knew that they were going to have to spend another 7 months with only, so there's 28 men, there's 4 small tents, there's 18 reindeer sleeping bags, there's enough food for about 3 months. So they've already gone through that. But Shackleton kept the spirits alive, and he made 2 things very clear. The first thing is that we all have to be leaders, and we all have to help each other stay alive. And the second thing was, we're all going to get out here alive, or none of us are going to survive. So he had a real all for one, one for all mentality, and that's real inclusive leadership. So they tried to get out of there. They tried to transport one of the lifeboats, but it was over 1 ton, so that was useless. They couldn't do that. They tried to get out of here through some sled dogs, but there was no point at that as well. So they were stuck for another 7 months in the Antarctica ice, trying to keep the spirits alive. Shackleton drew out the best right brain creative ideas in terms of how to survive, the best left brain intellectual ideas. They had fun. They had parties out there on the ice, so they actually ignited the fire within his people. So he was an uncanny leader, an ability to keep hope and alive in a very grim situation. They stayed alive by hunting some penguins and some seals, and unfortunately, they also had to hunt their beloved sled dogs, those 21 sled dogs, which didn't make my daughter very happy, Sophie, when I shared that to her, because she loves animals. So if you're keeping track, they've now been out on the ice for 14 months. 14 months with only 3 months of rations. And they spent the first 7 months on the ship and the next 7 months on the ice. When the spring thaw came for a second time, and they're still out there surviving, they're greeted by this. So what they had to do is they had to take those 3 lifeboats, 28 men, and get into 3 lifeboats, and they had to make sure they weren't hit by this ice, this falling ice, so they would be capsized. They had to try to stay away from that. So 28 men into 3 lifeboats, and what they did as far as a meal is that they had 1 biscuit per man per day. So they looked at it for breakfast. They sucked on it for lunch, and they ate it for dinner. As far as water, they got water by sucking on the gloves, so they were able to get some water from sucking on the gloves. And in the evenings, what they did is they took the lifeboats and they put them up on the ice so they wouldn't be washed away. But throughout all this ordeal, Shackleton is keeping their hopes and their spirits alive. And he's getting their ideas, and he's keeping them engaged through those 5 levels. So where they're going right now is they're trying to get to Elephant Island, which is about 300 miles away, so at least they can feel and touch the ground. Finally, after 7 days, they reach a deserted island called Elephant Island, and they were able to touch the ground for the first time in over 16 months. They enjoyed a beautiful seal meal, so they had hot food for the first time in 16 months. But then now, Shackleton, there on the left, and his men and his leaders had to decide, okay, how are we going to reach land? How are we going to survive? As you can see from this map, the nearest land was actually South America, 400 miles to the northwest, but the prevailing winds actually went northeast. So they had to go with the prevailing winds. They decided they would head to South Georgia, that whaling outpost that I outlined to you at the beginning of the story. So Shackleton and 5 of his men took one of the lifeboats, a makeshift mast and a boom, and set forth onto the Southern Ocean to try to navigate 800 miles from Elephant Island to South Georgia Island. So if you were in this predicament, what would you do? Would you join Shackleton and go 800 miles to try to hit South Georgia? Or would you stay back with the lieutenant and the other 21 men? Most of them are half insane by then. What would you do? Well, Shackleton and the 5 others hit the ocean, tried to hit South Georgia Island to try to find a needle in a haystack, and this is what they were greeted with. 30 to 40-foot waves. They were in this lifeboat. They were bobbed around like a cork. They had to hold on to each other just to be able to stay on this lifeboat and also to keep each other warm. They took turns taking little cat naps out front. And they were out in this ocean trying to find, remember, South Georgia Island, 800 miles to the northeast, somewhere on the Southern Ocean. Well, after 17 days in what is generally regarded as one of the most incredible navigational feats known to mankind, they finally found South Georgia Island. But their challenge wasn't over, you see, because where they were trying to reach the whaling outpost was on the other end of the island. If they went around it in the lifeboat, they would have been bumped up against the rocks and they would have been killed. So Shackleton and 2 of the other men had to take some screws from the lifeboat, put them into the shoes, and had to walk over the island. But this is the island they looked at, in the Antarctica. So it's like Norway, fjord. So they had to crawl, and remember, they just spent 17 days in the Southern Ocean, so they're exhausted. They're trying to find this whaling outpost so they can survive and then rescue the rest of their men. And finally, after about 30 hours of crawling on this island, they hear the sound. And the sound is what really kept them going. The sound of the whaling outpost. They knew they were close. They got to the whaling outpost, Shackleton and the 2 other men. The captain of the whaling outpost, whom Shackleton knew, looked at him and barely recognized Shackleton because he was half dead. They gave him some food, gave him some water, a good night's sleep, and then Shackleton and those men then went around to the other end of the island, rescued those other men on the other end of the island of South Georgia. And then meanwhile, back at Elephant Island, remember, there's 21 men back at Elephant Island, and they're just hanging in there. It's been about 4 months. They're surviving off of putrid remains of seal meat and just barely hanging on. But the lieutenant now in charge at Elephant Island was trained well by Shackleton, and he knew his job was to keep the spirits alive of these people. And every night, they went down to the ocean off of Elephant Island to look for Shackleton or somebody to save them. And after 4 months, 4 failed attempts, lots of failure, finally, Shackleton and the whaling captain, a few others, came and rescued the men from Elephant Island. And then all 28 men, remember, Shackleton's vision was we're all going to survive or none of us are going to. All 28 men then got to South America safely 20 months after leaving London. 20 months. Isn't that unbelievable? Well, in 30 seconds or less, compare that to another quick tale, and that is the Carluke, which left 1 year previous from Vancouver to the Arctic. Exactly the same fate with the Carluke as the Endurance, got stuck in the ice, This time, the captain was a lot more egocentric. He tried to save himself. He tried to leave on his own. He was bludgeoned by a polar bear. The other men tried to fight and tried to go on their own. Didn't work. None of them survived. So what's the difference here between the unmitigated disaster of the Karluk and the incredible success story of Shackleton and the Endurance? It's one word. It's leadership. It's leadership. Shackleton helped them all be leaders. Was very clear about the vision. We're all going to get out there and none of us are. So he had a vision. He took their best right-brained ideas. They were very creative in terms of how they survived. He took the best intellectual ideas. He had fire and he ignited that fire within all of his people. They had fun. They were actually playful in dire situations. So that was the difference. It was leadership that kept them alive. And I'd argue today it's the same thing in business and in many organizations. That is the secret sauce. That's the fire. It's leadership that really can ignite organizations and ignite people and mobilize them forward. So leadership was the difference here in the story in terms of Shackleton and Endurance. And in our view, leadership is really the secret sauce or the difference, not just between life and death, but also between the success of organizations. So the story of Shackleton's Endurance. I've been doing some songwriting over the last number of years, and I've realized that there are many songs that have the same hook. You know what a hook is? A hook is, a musical progression, 3 or 4. So here's one of the most famous hooks. Have a listen. So when you hear that, probably a few songs come to mind. So I'm going to do in 3 minutes or less a little piece, the same hook progression with 20 different songs. And as you hear this, please reflect on what's one key idea, one key story that you want to take away and put into the world to really light that spark and ignite that within you. So here it goes. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. Country roads take me home to the place that I belong. Don't stop believing. Right, Jennifer? Dirty. Or forever young. I want to be forever young. It's my life. It's now or never. I ain't gonna live forever. I come from the land down under, where women glow and men plunder. So how many of you would like to live in a land where women glow and men plunder? Sign me up. Even some of the best love songs of all time have used this same hook progression, like these ones. I'm doing little love tonight, or no woman, no cry. Okay, your turn, ready? No woman, no cry. Nice, let's hit the road together. Your lipstick stains on the front lobe of my left side brains. Or people killing, people dying, children hurt, can you hear them crying? Will you practice what you preach? Will you turn the other cheek? My life is brilliant. My love is pure. I saw an angel, of that I'm sure. You're beautiful, James Blunt. Even the king of pop, Michael Jackson, has used the same hook progression. I'm asking for the man in the mirror. Follow me, below you love me, Papa. Paparazzi can't read my, no you can't read my poker face. What if God was one of us? No, I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait, I'm yours. Even the divas, the rappers love this same progression. How about Rihanna? Do you like Rihanna? She's great, isn't she great? Goes something like this. Just gonna stand there and watch me burn. Cause that's alright, because I like the way it hurts. Cause baby, you're a firework. Come on, show us what you're worth. Do it. Make them go, oh, 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 as to shoot across the sky, or wrecking ball. I've never hit so hard in love. All I wanted was to break your walls. All you ever did was wreck me. And for this last piece, we say goodbye to the last year, to who we were, and say hello to the new year and who we are and going to be. Light that fire within. Take a moment, close your eyes. What's one idea, one story from today? Get connected with that. Take that into the world with you. And hold hands, if you'd like, if you choose, with somebody beside you. And sing with me this last piece. Come on, it's okay. Hold hands. Close your eyes. It's okay. It's cool, man. It's about engage. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and old lang syne? Very good, nice, thank you.